Okay, so let's roll. I've been working on this one for the good part of a week off and on, trying to get this one, trying to do my Virgo best to get this one as good as possible so that it's as helpful as possible. So off the heels of my latest upload, which was on the planets of Mars and Venus and the relationship energies that you display, looking at your Mars and Venus placements and looking at them from the context of a relationship. This video I'm going to do is going to be on synastry and composite charts. So if two people come to me and they say, hey, I want a relationship chart reading, there's a process. There's looking at each individual chart and understanding what each individual chart is showing me. Then I go to the synastry to say, how is each person as a unique individual coming together and how are they influencing each other through this relationship? Then there's the composite chart, which is it's a third entity. Think of it as a third person, which is the result of these two people coming together. What does it mean? So the composite chart can show you past life dynamics. If you have had a relationship with that person before, what the dynamics have been, what your souls are trying to work towards in this lifetime. So there's a layering effect that takes place. So in this video, I have a couple sample charts. I'm going to do my best to walk through the basics on how this is done so that you can get some more understanding of the process, get some more understanding of just relationships in general, get an understanding of some of what the archetypes in these charts mean, because there is some good information here in terms of the composite charts and the synastry. So it'll provide, hopefully, my hope is that it's multi-layered. There's lots of info that can come through in here, and you can see the complexity, which is the case with any relationship, especially ones that are close relationships, like family relationships or business partners that we form connections with, or romantic partners that we decide to take it to the next level, the eighth house territory, which is merging energies, whether that's sexually, or we're going to move in with one another, or we're going to get married. That's where all of our stuff gets emptied out and all of the dynamics start to take place. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to share my screen and start to unpack this process. So I went into my Solar Fire program, and instead of grabbing a sample chart or looking up a celebrity, I just went in there and just randomly selected two charts. I selected a date, a time, a location, and said, let's go for it. So this chart I labeled Joy, which I have April 14th, 1984, 5:47 a.m. in Los Angeles, California. So like I said in the beginning, when I look at two charts, I certainly look at Mars and Venus, which is the latest upload that I put out there to see what the relationship dynamics are for each person as an individual. So if you're curious about that, you can watch that video. I'll actually link it below or maybe at the end of this video, maybe in both locations. So it sets a good foundation in terms of how your soul wants to relate in this lifetime, what it needs in terms of understanding itself in relation to other people, what the energy exchange needs to be for them. Then there's this layer, which is analyzing each individual chart and then preparing to view them side by side and then in composite. So looking at this chart, I need to understand this chart and my other sample chart to really get a full understanding of what I'm looking at in the synastry and the composite charts. So in this view, I have all of the symbols, including Chiron, Black Moon, Lilith, and Eris, because I think those are significant placements in anyone's chart. So this is everything that I typically look at. But if I'm looking at it from an EA perspective, I want to understand the soul's intent for the lifetime. So that's always going to be Pluto. It's going to be the polarity point. It's going to be the nodes of the moon. It's going to be the rulers of the nodes of the moon. You can pull the moon in there too, but I like to just focus on these points. So in my program, I can do that. So this is Joy's chart, but I can modify this to say, and I'm going to do this for this example just to get to the core, but you can certainly view all of these points if you're doing it for yourself to get a full, deep analysis of all of the layering. But for this one, let me go here. Let's do custom. Let's edit. Let's do, I think I already have this set up for Joy. Mercury, Jupiter, Pluto, North Node, South Node, yes. So this is just those placements that I discussed. Pluto, polarity house, South Node ruler, North Node ruler. So I want to understand the soul core. So Pluto, Scorpio, sixth house, daily routine, health, being of service. There's a soul desire to become empowered in that area. The polarity house, the 12th house, the Pisces house, which is more flow, unconscious material, finding a way to remove themselves from so much focus on the material realm can be part of that. We're going to go into it a little bit deeper, but the South Node is how this has been experienced in the past. It's the comfort zone. So for Joy, the South Node is in the eighth house. So she's comfortable with merged energies, the eighth house, the Pluto house, which is I am comfortable with going deep with people in relationships. That's my comfort zone. And the ruler of that is Jupiter in Capricorn, which adds an authoritative flavor to it. And so, from an evolutionary astrology perspective, typically Capricorn is conditioning, whether that's parents, whether it's society, whether it's both. And it's Jupiter in the sign, Jupiter in the ninth house, which is travel, religion, philosophy are the normal terms put on the ninth house, but it's learning, understanding things at a deeper level. So just surface level, and there's many, again, with astrology, there's many different interpretations. It depends on consciousness level, ancestral patterns, all of this stuff. But just at a foundation level from an EA perspective, I would see this, and my initial thought, without being in somebody's energy and reading them intuitively, would be heavy conditioning. This would certainly be a symbol of heavy religious conditioning, as an example, from people close to them, family, society. They're familiar there. Maybe they felt obligated in some way to that way of life. Their North Node, which is how they want to experience this placement in this lifetime, which is new from the South Node, is in the second house in Gemini. Second house, the inside of Taurus, is establishing their own sense of self, establishing what they have within themselves to support themselves, second house, developing a strong self-esteem, second house. And it's ruled by Mercury in Taurus in the first house. The first house is them. It's how they express themselves. So I would say in this lifetime, how they want to become empowered in that 6th and 12th house access in this lifetime is to develop self reliance, North Node, 2nd house. And they're probably going to do that learning different perspectives, but forming their own belief system and communicating. They literally could be a writer or they can be a speaker in this lifetime, maybe bringing forth all of this experience they've gained here and expressing that to other people to help other people. But it's going to be more about them, 2nd house. So I need to understand that about her first. And again, this is a sample just looking at the symbols. I don't have this person in front of me. If I did, this can go in a completely different direction according to their energy and how I read it. But this is just foundational. And then I would flip to my next sample chart, which I labeled this one Brady. And again, it was random, October 23rd, 1987, 10:02 a.m. in Lansing, Michigan. So again, this is all the symbols here. If I was going to do a deep analysis, all of this would be taken into consideration, certainly Mars and Venus, all of the symbols here. But let's just take this and strip it down like I did with Joy's chart. And so now I just have Pluto, the polarity house, the North Node, the South Node, and the rulers of each. So for Brady, as a unique individual from a soul perspective, he has a Pluto in the 12th house in Scorpio, and it's blending energies with Venus, which is the ruler of his South Node. So for him, he's got 12th house, 6th house access. He's part of the Scorpio generation the same way Joy is. So Scorpio is penetrating, the need to go deep, asking the deeper questions, experiencing merged energies, gaining wisdom from that experience. And it's conjunct Venus. So how he feels about himself, his own unique expression, expressions within relationships, dynamic within relationships. It's in the 12th house. So the 12th house can have some different flavoring to it. One of them can be maybe he's just a natural psychic and he has this ability to channel information from other dimensions. 12th house is also the unconscious. Maybe there's some unconscious wounding or some memories of deeply merged energies. Or maybe he was impacted in some way where he was removed from society, which is also 12th house territory. So in this house, or in this, from this perspective, with the polarity house being the 6th house, it's like, how can I ground? How can I, maybe if I have these, using the example of having psychic abilities, how do I actually bring this forward and make this be of service to the collective in some way? 6th house, how can I be of service with these gifts that I have? Using the other example of maybe some unconscious things or some deeply wounding things that happened in relationships, bringing those to light, bringing the unconscious to the conscious, and 6th house being able to heal them. How is he comfortable, he or she, not gender specific? How are they comfortable? South Node conjunct Mars in the 11th house in the sign of Libra. So Libra trying to achieve harmony and balance, possibly trying to achieve harmony and balance at all costs, which may be putting him or herself in an imbalanced situation. The 11th house, there's going to be some flavoring in terms of humanity, serving humanity. Maybe his parents did that in some way, so they showed that to him as a certain perspective and a way of living. There's the other flavoring here of Mars being conjunct the south node. So again, there's many interpretations here. One of the core interpretations from an EA standpoint is unresolved anger. Whenever you see a north node, whenever you see a south node conjunct Mars, it could be an indication or a sign of unresolved anger, which could have been experienced in past lives or potentially early on in this life, or both. So the interesting thing here is if we flip to the north node. So before I go there, this is the comfort zone for here. So maybe there was some anger which got repressed, 12th house, anger within relationships that got repressed and pushed into the 12th house. Or maybe another interpretation of this is they were a strong leader, Mars conjunct the south node. They were able to direct people in some way, but maybe it didn't turn out so well. And so they got pushed away from society, 12th house. That deeply impacted them personally, Venus conjunct Pluto, another interpretation of this. So they're comfortable in that space. Then we look at the north node in the 5th house in the sign of Aries. Where is the ruler of Aries? It's back here, conjunct the south node. Well, for sure, there's going to be some wrapping up from the past that's going on. It's really important for this individual with the north node ruler being conjunct the south node. There is a relive situation going on here where there's going to be potentially the same type of experience, similar type of dynamics that happened in a past life again in this life. So they can replay it again, so they can understand it from a different perspective, so they can heal it and transform it. Or they can express it in a different way that's more authentic and is more honoring of other people. Libra. Ruler of Aries, Mars in Libra, south node, to find harmony and balance. And there's going to be a creative expression, the 5th house, as opposed to the 11th house, which is contributing to humanity, or with the 11th house and the archetype of Libra being there, maybe being hyperly focused on humanity and other people and losing their sense of self or their own direction, Mars. It's going to be important for them to express their own creativity in this lifetime. So that's the core, and it's important to understand the core of each one of these charts first. I'm trying to decide. So I made a document outlining these steps and the key points for each one of them. I think I'm going to flip to that now to at least, let's recap what I just discussed here in these charts. Let's do that. So just to put it in a document in front of us so we have it clear. So Joy has a Pluto in the 6th house, daily routine, health, healing, being of service, and going deep, wanting to know the why. The 12th house polarity, going with the flow, learning the right way to give and receive. Developing intuitive abilities can be part of this. Where she's familiar is blending energies, 8th house, Sagittarius, wanting to continually learn, follow intuition, and live life naturally. Potentially to have experienced parental societal conditioning with Jupiter and Capricorn in the 9th house. Where's the direction she's going in this lifetime? To develop self-reliance, 2nd house, heal any wounding of the mind or communication because it's conjunct Chiron and Gemini, which I didn't have Chiron there when I stripped out everything, but Chiron is conjunct her north node in the 2nd house. Articulate and communicate what she has learned through experience, ruler Mercury in the 1st house in Taurus. Like I said, potentially writing, speaking, teaching, enhance self-esteem and support her financially. For Brady, He's got a 12th house in Scorpio and a 6th house polarity. So exact opposite of joy, but they're both working the 12th and the 6th house axis. So without even looking at synastry, there's this connection here. They're both, from a soul perspective, working the 6th and the 12th house axis. So they certainly have the potential to help each other there. So the 12th house, unconscious memories, fear, abandonment, betrayal, is always a potential with Scorpio energy, especially in the 12th house, feeling the collective energies, accessing unseen realms. The 6th house, balancing the seen and the unseen, potentially using psychic abilities to serve, processing unconscious material, uncovering and healing any unconscious dynamics, which I have listed there. South node, he's comfortable contributing. He or she is comfortable contributing to the collective, participating in groups, trying to find harmony and balance. Mars is conjunct, so maybe some unresolved anger. Maybe naturally a psychic, seeing underneath the surface of people and situations is something that can be very natural to this individual. And then the North node, uncover and heal the root of any anger issues from missed or past lives, gain wisdom. There's a wide conjunction to Jupiter with his North node, and feel free to express themselves creatively. 5th house. Then we're going to go to synastry. So I'm going to flip to synastry. So here is the synastry Let's try this again. Here is the synastry chart between my sample of Joy and Brady. So, and it contains all of the symbols, this one. So Joy is the inner wheel. Brady is the outer wheel. So I can strip all of the archetypes out and I can just look at Pluto, North Node, South Node, and rulers. We can do that, but I'm going to keep all of the symbols in here because when I do synastry, I like to see all of them. So what we're looking at here is how each other, as unique individual charts, people interact with one another. So what I like to do is this inner chart, which is Joy's, and all of the houses 1 through 12 symbolize her chart. And then Brady comes in from the outside and influences Joy, is how it's displayed right now. So I like to label Brady's houses to see how his houses hit Joy's houses. So this is his first house. And we'll go right around 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so, slight caveat, I'm using the porphyry house system, so the house boundaries are not going to perfectly line up between Brady and Joy. If you're using the whole sign system or equal houses, then they will. Then they'll line up and there'll be clear delineations between the houses. But this is, for the most part, where Brady's houses are hitting Joy's houses. So I like to look at that. And obviously, the symbols that we just looked at. Venus, North Node, Mars, South Node, North Node. So those, I think I've got them all. Yeah, so those are all of the symbols that we just looked at in their individual charts, and this is how it hits the other person's chart, how they're affecting one another. So right off the bat, let's clear all of this out. It's like ding, 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 ding. So I see Brady's South Node conjunct Mars is conjunct Joy's moon. That's a strong indication of past life influences, if I've ever seen one. So, as an example, my chart and my daughter's chart, her moon is conjunct my south node. So we certainly, I can feel I've had past life relationships. So it could be parent child, could be romantic. The basic interpretation is this isn't our first go around. And so all of those dynamics here in the south node that I talked about in Brady's chart are going to be impacting the moon of Joy in her chart, her moon in Libra. The next thing, ding, 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 Brady's sun is conjunct Joy's Pluto. So the sun is the fuel that you run off of, and you're deriving all of your life experiences and creating meaning and purpose through your sun sign. Sun is in Libra, trying to find harmony and balance for Brady. It is hitting Joy's Pluto, which is her symbol of becoming empowered, needing to become empowered in that area. So there's certainly a strong influence in this relationship between Brady's life force and Joy's soul or self-empowerment journey in this lifetime. Ding, ding, ding. Over here. Oh, Brady's north node is exactly conjunct Joy's Black Moon Lilith in the 12th house. And there's a conjunction between Black Moon Lilith and Joy's Venus. Well, definitely Brady's north node and how he's trying to express that energy will be influenced by Joy's Black Moon Lilith and Venus. Venus, her needs, her values. Joy's Black Moon Lilith symbolizes the primal instinct within us that potentially can go against parents, caregivers, society, but it's something that's natural and innate within us that we want to express. So depending on how Joy models that, she may be a perfect model of how to express that North Node energy for Brady. Depends. It depends on if Joy's suppressing, because it is in her 12th house. If she's suppressing that energy, maybe Brady's, when Brady steps into his North Node, which remember his Mars is the ruler of that North Node and it's conjunct her moon, there may be some anger that gets brought to the surface within this relationship with the underlying purpose of understanding what the root of that anger is to be able to heal it. So definitely that stands out to me. The other thing from a house perspective, if you remember, this is Brady's first house and his 7th house is here. First house, 7th house. His first house is hitting her 8th house, where her south node is. First house is him or her, not gender specific. However, they're expressing themselves is in the 8th house, connected to Joy's south node. They're familiar, especially it's like doubling down on that south node conjunct the moon. They've been together before, deeply merged before. This isn't their first rodeo. And Brady's 7th house is with Joy's 2nd house and her north node in the 2nd house. She wants to define for herself her own values and be able to communicate her own needs. North node, Gemini, 2nd house. She will have the opportunity to do that through this relationship. 7th house. So those are the main contacts that I see here. There's a lot more to synastry. I mean, I could probably create a 4 or 5 hour video to go through each one of these symbols and how they're hitting each other and to look at aspects between them and to flip the charts, meaning, so I have Joy on the inside here. I have Brady on the outside. I have it flipped in this chart where I have Brady on the inside. I have Joy on the outside. Obviously, they're going to hit in the same places, but it's just a different perspective where I like to look at it from the perspective of, okay, here's Brady inside, this wheel inside with the house systems. How's Joy's energy and influence coming into his life? Where is it hitting him? I just like to visually flip it to be able to see that. So you can do that for yourself, or you can just leave it the way I had it here. That's going to be your preference. I can also introduce aspects. Let's see what's a good one here. I think I like this one. Let's see. Let's do displayed points. Let's do planets and Chiron. And now we can see some aspects. So I can take this and say, let's look at the Pluto placements here. And I can say, okay, show me the dynamics potentially that are going on here as they come together, as I look at each of their Pluto placements and what the aspects are to the other person's planets. So I'm not going to go in depth here, just introducing the concept. If the inner wheel is joy, I would locate her Pluto. And these lines here are going to, hold on one second. These lines here, it's kind of hard to see because they mix, the aspects mix between each other's Pluto placement. Joy's Pluto is square to Brady's Black Moon Lilith. It's trine his Chiron, and it is opposing his Jupiter. So there's more context I can add there. And then I can look at Brady's Pluto, and these aspect lines here will indicate aspects to Joy's planets. So I see an inconjunct to her Venus, which is important. So there's layers that can get added here with the aspects, but I'm not going to go there because I'll be here forever. But just understand that there's more layering, but just not even looking at these aspects, but paying attention to the symbols in conjunction where they're close to one another and the house overlays is going to give you a lot of information. So that's synastry. So let me go back to my document here and we'll look through synastry. Actually, I'm gonna hit the document at the end. I'm gonna go to composite now. And so this is a composite chart, which means I've taken Joy's chart, I've taken Brady's chart, and in this software program, I can say combine these two, which will take each of the individual planets and luminaries in each chart and calculate the midpoints between them and create this third chart, which is the composite, which symbolizes the relationship. It's a third entity. So it's different from synastry, which has this individual and how do they influence each other. This is the relationship. So if you look at these archetypes, like I'll just use the example of Mars and Venus, where we have Mars in Scorpio and we have Venus in Capricorn. Brady, Joy, Brady one day can be Mars in Scorpio and present that energy. The next day, Joy can be Mars in Scorpio and present that energy. One day, Brady can be Venus in Capricorn. The next day, Joy can be Venus in Capricorn. Where if you looked at the synastry charts, and if I looked at, let's say, the aspects in a synastry chart where somebody had a Pluto placement, and it was like that example that I showed where Brady's Pluto was in conjunct Joy's Venus, Brady will always be the Pluto energy. Joy will always be the Venus energy in a synastry chart. But when I look at it here, actually with this aspect that's active, there's a square here between Venus and Mars, they can flip. It's not that Joy's always going to be the Mars and Scorpio and Brady's always going to be the Venus and Capricorn. This could symbolize, since this is a third entity, it is the relationship. Maybe they, and as a couple, are working to separate themselves from any conditioning, any parental structures, any societal structures that have restricted their own self-expression. So that this aspect can be read, let's say if there was a Mars and Venus in Synastry, it would be read completely different than a Mars Venus square in a composite. This aspect can be read from, I'm breaking this couple, these two as a couple coming together are breaking free from conditioning. If this was Brady and this was Joy in a synastry chart, I would expect there to be some tension in the relationship where Brady has this deep probing way of being and Joy is more controlled or restricted in some way, which causes tension. Just one of the interpretations of this energy, right? So that interpretation in synastry is completely different here than the composite, which is the relationship. The other powerful thing with composite, now that we looked at both individual charts, we've done the synastry chart, now we go to the composite, is what are these two working through? How are they trying to become empowered? What are they trying to understand and gain wisdom in as a couple? And certainly we saw the South Node and the moon placement. We saw the first house contacting the eighth. So we've seen indications of past lives. And so, okay, looking at Pluto and the South Node and the North Node, I mean, I can't ignore looking at this chart. Pluto conjunct the South Node, conjunct Mars, conjunct the moon. They're working on this for sure. They've been here before. A ninth house Pluto is, and again, there's many factors that influence how this is experienced. I don't have the couple in front of me. I don't have context. Just looking at the symbols, this symbol could indicate severe mistrust, anger issues, abandonment, betrayal, fear of abandonment, fear of betrayal, having the rug pulled out from underneath you, which generated anger issues. This can be a strong indication of misrepresenting themselves one to the other, portraying something that they're not, splitting their energies, lying to one another, not being truthful. This also can be, think of a higher expression of this is like they've gone through the depths of what it means to be in a relationship with one another. It's in the ninth house. We as a couple are really super laser focused on defining our own truth and the truth of existence in general. Why are we here on this planet? What's the deeper meaning? How do we spiritualize our existence? It's really important for us. The Mars conjunct South Node, conjunct Pluto. We really want to experience that in full. The North Node in Taurus in the third house, the communication house, third house. We want to define our own value system, Taurus. It's going to be really important for us. And it's ruled by Venus over here in Capricorn, conjunct the sun. I'll even pull in Mercury, releasing ourselves from restrictions. And I called that out up here too with this square, right? Square from the nodes to this energy. We want to break free from any restrictions. It's 12th house territory. We want to unearth any unconscious material within us. We want to heal any wounds from the past. We want to maybe be able to step into our psychic abilities and powers and be able to help in some way, help society in some way. We want to understand and communicate things in a way that helps humanity. That's the purpose of this relationship at its core. Just intuitively, I get drawn to Chiron in Gemini. Going back to splitting and not being honest could have been a part of this relationship. Healing that is important. It's fifth house territory. It's meaningful. Fifth house ruled by Leo. It's on the cusp of their seventh house. A big part of this relationship is to heal that communication. Anything that needs to be healed. And if you remember, Joy has her North Node conjunct Chiron in the second house. So part of this relationship, this third entity, is potentially helping her heal anything around communication or learning or speaking or writing. Any of that can be healed through this relationship. So let me go back to the document and kind of tie this all together and why it's important to do each individual chart, then the synastry, then the composite. So we already did the individual charts, 6th and 12th house access, North Node for Joy, second house self-reliance, Brady, 12th, 6th house access for him, just to flip in the polarity points so they can definitely help each other there. North Node, healing any anger issues to gain wisdom, to be able to creatively express himself. In synastry, the main points that came out was that 6th and 12th house access. So there's synastry there, or there's definitely a collaboration or a soul desire to work on the same axis. Brady's South Node in Mars with Joy's Moon, past life contact. Definitely the anger issues could have been the result of past life dealings. North Node conjunct Joy's Black Moon Lilith. Joy can show Brady how to express that North Node energy in a healthy way if she's realized her own Black Moon Lilith. There can be potential to heal any wounding, abandonment, or anger that may have been present from this or other lifetimes. There's the potential here for Brady to help Joy realize her 12th house polarity, which is the opposite of her Pluto sign, which is in the 6th house. He may be able to show her ways to step into that 12th house and vice versa. Since Brady's comfortable in the 12th house, he can help with Joy's polarity. Since Joy has had experience in the 6th house, she can help with Brady's polarity being the 6th house. Brady's Sun conjunct Joy's Pluto. Talk about a transformative relationship. The Sun conjunct somebody's Pluto. So this could have many interpretations to it. The Sun, when it comes in contact with Pluto, can mean this can be a destructive relationship. It can highlight all of the stuff that needs to be healed. How that gets responded to depends on a lot of different factors. It could go from one extreme to the other. It could be this hugely transformative relationship where all of the shit, so to speak, comes to the surface and gets transformed. Any of that 12th house territory stuff, any of the wounding that Joy has from a communication standpoint, any of the wounding from 8th house territory stuff, all of the Scorpio stuff can get transcended through this relationship, can be a part of this. And we already talked about the house synastry there too. Then we go to composite. We have the 9th house Pluto, continual expansion, seeking spiritual truth, aligned with intuition, being honest. That's one of the big indicators of a composite Pluto in the 9th house is being completely honest within yourself. That gets where you feel comfortable being able to express that to the other person in the relationship. Resolving anger, the uncovering the root of any fear, abandonment, betrayal, resolving power imbalances. All of this is in effect through this relationship. South Node ruler, Mars and Pluto, they're used to being deeply committed to one another. They're used to going through the depths, asking the questions why, having the Scorpio type experiences, familiar with all of the dynamics that I listed in the line above. The North Node ruler, honest communication through the relationship, defining their own needs and values, removing any restrictions on them through their connection, maybe through parents, maybe through society, with that ruler of Venus and Capricorn in the 12th, uncovering any of the unconscious material that needs to be brought to the surface, accessing intuition to follow a path aligned with each of their souls. That is the core intent. So you layer all of this together and you can clearly see what Joy's working on from a soul perspective, what Brady's working on from a soul perspective, what they're each bringing to each other in this relationship through the synastry charts, and then what is the operative dynamic? What is that third entity called a relationship? What are they looking to create through this partnership in this lifetime? What are they looking to work through? What are they aiming to through this collaboration? So there you go. That's all that I have. It's not all. I mean, I can keep going further, but my hope is that something here or many things here helped in some way for you to understand, really to understand the complexity of relationships, but to be able to use these techniques to help you understand your close relationships, understand what you're trying to show yourself, understand what you're trying to bring to the other person, what they're trying to bring to you, what the relationship means for each one of you. Just as a blanket statement, all relationships are a mirror. We're trying to show ourselves something. So to be able to step back and look at it objectively, especially through the use of astrology, is extremely helpful in your soul's evolution. So there's a couple, I didn't do any research to see if there's any online resources where you can have this type of view like I'm able to do in Solar Fire. So you can purchase the Solar Fire program, or you can do some research online to see if there's a way to do it. You can look at each individual chart and be able to figure it out, the synastry and the composite. It would be a little more manual and difficult to do it that way. There's a couple applications that I have on my phone that do it, not to the detail I do it, but it will give you some good information. One of them is Time Passages, which I can link in the description box below. And there's another app called The Pattern, which uses the whole signs house system, but I've found it to be helpful and give some valuable information. So those, you can't do exactly what I'm showing you here, but it will give you some information, especially Time Passages will give you the aspects. If you can do a comparison within the application between yours and another person's chart, and it will give you all the aspects, and they will give you their interpretations of the aspects. So that can definitely be helpful. So I think that's it. As always, I appreciate you being here. Thank you for your energy. I will have a link to my website below if you're interested in checking that out. There's blog posts. There's links to my other social media outlets there. There's you can book a session through there. You can book a relationship reading through there as well. So if you're curious and want to check that out, it's below. If not, that's cool too. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your energy, and we will talk again in other videos. Thank you.